Did you ever wonder if mediums are afraid of death? And what if you could schedule a meeting with your own death? Would you do it? Hello and welcome to Angelscapes. I'm your host, Nancy Smith, your guide to living a soul-powered life. So join me for a deep and honest conversation about facing death.
Welcome to the Angelscapes podcast, where you're encouraged to uncover and develop a direct connection with your soul's power, wisdom, and spiritual intuition that is ready to blossom. We'll explore new ideas, compelling tips, and real steps to help you learn simple spiritual practices. We're a safe place to learn more about accessing your soul's power with education and spiritual wholeness that could bring more clarity to your life. Now here's your host, a practicing medium, Akashic Records practitioner, spirit artist, coach, and mentor, Dr. Reverend Nancy Smith.
None of us is getting out of here alive, said Bugs Bunny once, and maybe more than once. But truly, to live with freedom and purpose, we must learn to embrace our own end. Discover how making peace with death can free you from the fear that holds you back from living a full life. As a medium, it's a big topic to talk about. And as a medium, I do get the question sometimes, are you afraid of death now that you've talked to many people on the other side? And what is it like on the other side? And all those questions are very good, important questions. So I wanted to take time in this episode to talk about death and grief. So my relationship with death definitely changed once I started to practice mediumship and talk to people on the other side. One of my most favorite topics of all, and talking to people, loved ones on the other side, is what are you doing? And what's it like there? And sometimes I'll get a really good answer, and sometimes they're just so busy talking to their loved ones that they say, I'll tell you later. I get a lot of stories of what it was like to pass to the other side, what it was like to say goodbye and then say hello. And those messages maybe aren't 100% received because the sitter wants to know different things about what's happening to their loved ones, but their loved ones do want to explain, here's what happened to me. This is this amazing experience I just went through, this amazing journey. So my relationship with that definitely has been changed. I'm not afraid of it or to being sick or struggling in my human form, that's for sure. So what I did was try to figure out how could I embrace both things, my life, the end of my life, and then moving and transitioning into what looks like a beautiful spiritual realm where all kinds of things are possible. So let's talk about our life now. That's what I wanted to focus on this episode. My relationship with death started way before I was training as a medium. I had a very acute illness and was hospitalized for over a week. And the doctors actually told me I needed to choose, were you going to live or were you going to die? Because we put every medicine we know inside of you and you're not responding to any one of them. And that kind of brought me up short, and I had to make a decision about what I wanted to do with my life. And that got me thinking. I'm not going to go into the whole story, but that got me thinking part was really important to what does life mean to me as I was choosing whether to live or die. Very important stuff. And oftentimes when I'm working with a client, working with a sitter, they're coming to me for the loss of a loved one and they're deeply grieving. And then sometimes they'll return on an anniversary and they'll want to know, how is this working? How is this happening? And sometimes some fears and some anxieties have come up as part of the grief process. And having a talk about their actual ending, if they're open to it, their actual death, sometimes is helpful in them understanding their own grief or their own transition or their own journey in life itself. So my mom is another case of how I had to face death. My mom became very ill and nearly died. And, but she came out of that terrible illness paralyzed from the waist down and very, very sick. And since that, she's since passed, but during that time, 17 years of being paraplegic, she became very sick often and would come close to dying. She had a heart issue and she had lung issue, and she also, being paraplegic, there's a lot of issues that show up just from having that condition. And I said to her, after she'd get sick and they'd call me and she's close to death, and I had a clunker of a car, so I'd go rent a car, and then I would run over to get my kids, and we would drive all the way up to Michigan, 700-800 miles, and say our prayers, and she'd come back. And she did this a few times, a dozen times, and I said to her, Mom, you're really having you're sitting on death's doorstep, but you won't go through the door, but you won't get off the front porch. And I asked her to make a decision about her life. Did she want to live or did she want to die? She was in the throes of accepting her paralysis at that point. And it was a very difficult conversation. And I had to, again, think, what is life? What is death? What is the meaning of life? And what is living? So this is an important question, not just for me, but for everyone, apparently, and for my mother at that time. And so I went through a series of introspection. I went through a series of just reading about grief around losing your health, grief around dying, grief around not being able to control your life anymore. And I looked up into some programs, and I did some shamanic training. And one of the pieces of the shamanic training was studying the death process. And I learned a lot. And I'm going to share some of that with you in this episode, because I feel like it's real important for us to kind of face our death, face what is in front of us. We all have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And we sort of got definitely have the beginning down. In the middle, we're still working with, but the end chases us throughout our entire life. It'll just give us fears or anxieties, and we'll make a lot of decisions based on this fear of death chasing us, or the end of our life chasing us. And what happened in this shamanic tradition called the death ritual, death rites, I learned something really important about facing death so that I could live my life fully. So in the Quechua tradition, the Peruvian shamanic tradition, to become a shaman, they don't call it shaman, but to move up to the levels from being a Paco to an Alta Messiah, you have to do this death rite. And there is this stone or this place that they go to, and it's in the outside in nature, and they have to lay still, become very quiet. There's 3 steps going up to it, and the 3 steps are the underworld, the middle world, which we all live in, the upper world, and they had to travel through all the worlds and meet their death. And sometimes it would take days of laying on this stone before they met their death. And what we did, because we didn't have days and we didn't have that stone with the 3 steps, we created a ritual. And I'm going to share that with you now so that you can maybe take a look at how can I look at my life in terms of my life ending. So the death ritual goes something like this. The first part is you just drop dead today. Right today, you just drop dead. And you need to write your obituary. And you write your obituary and what you have done with your life, who you've left behind, who's surviving you, how did you die, which is also an interesting question, and what did you learn from life so far? And quiet yourself, do some introspection, and look at your life. Starting today, going all the way back to the beginning of your life, what's happened. And have you created your dreams? Have you lived your dreams? Have you been offset from your dreams? Who did you love? Who loves you? And these can bring tears, they can bring excitement, and they can bring disappointment. And these are all important aspects for you to embrace in your life now as you've lived it up to today. And part two is have a trusted person who's willing to read your obituary to you. So you lay quietly, you sit quietly, and you come into a very quiet space and you listen to another's voice talk about you as if you were in the past, so that you can see your life from the day you died back to the beginning, but you can no longer make new plans. Well, I'll try that again later, or that thing I'm putting off, I'll do it next year. This is the end. There's no more redos. And then you have your trusted person mourn your loss and express how they miss you and add their own thoughts of not having you in their life. And there's no conversation in any of this. It's just simply listening. And when we listen in a quiet, reflective state, we hear more than we think we're going to hear. You hear quite a bit. As a matter of fact, when we did this ritual, we laid with a sheet over our head, and we could not move. We went into a deep meditative, reflective state and simply listened. So then, your trusted friend, then after waiting a little bit of time, a few minutes, however many minutes you decided, your friend calls you back very slowly, very gently, until you're fully back into your present self. And then what's important to do is write down, what did I learn by listening to my own obituary? What did I learn when life stops today and there's no redos, there's no looking forward? What did that feel like? What did you understand about it? What did you miss in your life that you had always wanted in your life but forgot to make it happen? And then as you write down all of these self-reflections, put them aside, and then go back and write your future obituary in a quiet place. It could be the next day or it could be the same day, depending on how you're doing this. Open with a prayer and invite in your guides, invite in your soul, your higher self that was there since your inception, and ask them to sit with you and reveal to you through your imagination your death, your actual death. Is it 5 years from now? Is it 10 years from now? How old are you? What are the circumstances? When, how, and who's nearby you at the time of your death? This feels like an imagination project, and it can be. So you start with your imagination, but as you imagine it, feel what feels right. Feel where, no, I don't want it to be next year. I want it to be 5 years from now. No, that's too soon. Just feel your way through it. And then with the help of your soul, rewrite your obituary and take in all the things that you've learned from dying today and put them into your obituary as if you've lived them, as if you've already done that. And what you've learned in their life, in the life going forward, or what you want to learn going forward. And then who loves you and who loved you and who do you love? Who you love and who loves you. What new relationships have you explored, and what traveling did you do? And then you allow it, when it feels right, you allow it to be complete. And so what you have done now, after finishing this new obituary, you have written your life and you have made an appointment with your own death. And it's amazing what people have come out of this ritual understanding about themselves. I did this a few years ago. My kids were still kind of young. And as I look back on what I wrote, I still have it, I realized that a number of things came to pass in my life that I wanted, but I didn't have any idea how to accomplish them or how to do them. And I have a strong sense of when and how I will pass. And I'm confident in that process, and I'm at peace with it. Even if it changes a little bit, I see how full my life is now because I planned my life. I have taken risks instead of staying, playing safe. I've already gone through that where to choose whether to live or die, and then I was things very, very. After I faced my death, I saw, um, I didn't do bungee jumping, but I've taken risks in moving towards some of the dreams that I have and wanted to create for myself. And I have done deep work, and I have not been afraid to do that deep work. And I conquered a good piece of fear for my death, and I feel that it actually helped me to go deeper into my mediumship work as I talk to the loved ones from spirit. I ask more questions. I'm more curious about what's happening. I'm not protecting myself from the death process anymore as I work as a medium. I am not negotiating life on the terms of fear. I live life more on my terms with the help of my soul and my guides. So, isn't that wonderful? Isn't that just a change I was able to create a change in my life that told me that I can live without fear. And so I really invite you to try this or make an appointment with me and we'll do it together. And maybe this will help the grief process also of knowing that when you make an appointment with your own passing, with the end of your life, you'll have more understanding for those who have passed before you, or more curiosity of what they're going, what their journey was. What did they feel when they passed and realized pencils down, no more going forward? What would you like to ask them? And what information can they bring forward for you? It will help your grief and your loss, but will also help your courage and give you a deeper understanding about life. Bugs Bunny said, none of us are getting out of here alive, which I truly understand to be kind of real, kind of the truth. And if we're working really, really hard, like my mom worked really, really hard not to pass. She actually thought that it was a mortal sin. She's Catholic, recovering Catholic, so she thought it was a mortal sin to let herself die. She did not have I guess her belief system stopped her from embracing the death that she wanted at times. And so she did everything she could, whether she liked it or not, to survive all of her suffering and be here fully present. So it's something of thought. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to spend a whole long time talking about it, but I really want to invite you to take a look at the things in your life that you're afraid of, all the changes that are happening in the political system and the weather system. And we've seen some pretty big things lately. And all of it ends in death. And when I work on belief pattern structure, changing belief systems in our lives, somebody will come up with a belief and we will drill down on that belief. If you believe this, if this is true and this happens, then what happens? And if that happens, who are you then? And if you're this and this happens, then what happens? And it always, always goes down to the fear of death. Then I'm dead and I have no life and nobody will remember me. These belief systems are brutal. And when they lead to a death of just a death of our souls, the death of ourselves, it's really no wonder it's so hard to kind of move past these belief systems. But we uncover the belief that this will end our lives completely. Then we can begin to say, wait a minute, I own my own death. I own my own life because of it. And we don't have to have that fear chase us down and force us into corners that we don't want to be in. It's a very courageous act of love that you could give to yourself, is to make an appointment with what you want to, with your soul, what you want to achieve, what you want to experience, what you want to learn, what you want to leave behind you before before you're gone, I had, I'll tell you a story. I had wanted to write a book, and I did write that book. I wrote 2 books, and the first book was a children's book, and that was fun, and it was pictures, and it was all my favorite things. And then the second one was a book about the Akashic Records, and I had been teaching it for a number of years, and I really wanted to create a book from all the material I was teaching. And I had developed cancer, and I had a long treatment. As a matter of fact, I had a year of not teaching because of the cancer. And as I was getting stronger after all the treatments, I was now, there was no more cancer in my body, no more crazy things happening. So I could now begin to get stronger. What came to my mind is I better get that second book written or I'm never going to get it written. So I started to write that book. And the impetus of the inspiration was before you die, because you just had a brush with the big C. And as I wrote that book, and I kind of brought in my mediumship and my guides and my soul, I realized that I was writing my life. I was creating my life in front of me, and I was recapitulating what I had learned with the Peruvian shamans about you got to embrace your death if you want to live your life. And by writing that book, I embraced my death and that I didn't have forever. And I went forward and created a dream. And I've written another book since then, and I have another couple more in the works. With one of my dreams was to have my own small publishing company, and it looks like it's happening. So you see how fear was keeping me from doing what I wanted to do, but death kind of kicked me in the butt and said, you better get going. It's not forever. You're not, we didn't land you on this earth plane to be here forever. That doesn't mean that I'm escaping my life. It means that I am accepting and surrendering to, we don't have forever here. And I wanted to have the fullest and best that I could possibly give myself. Nobody else is going to give you this life. Only you are going to give it to yourself. So I hope that these words make sense to you, and I hope that this is something that you can take home and play with it. And again, if you want help doing something like this, I will be more than happy. It would be an Akashic session, and we can set up some times to work through this. And maybe this is an answer to some of the fears and worries and anxieties that have been plaguing you. That wouldn't that be nice to not have death, the fear of death, chase you down on every corner. We don't always notice that that's what's going on, but gosh, if once we pull back the covers and really see what's underneath everything, fear is pretty much the fear of the end is right there. So I want to give you the blessings of spirit. I want to encourage you to live your soul life in the best way possible. You can find more about me at Angels. You can book a discovery session on angelscape.net with me with no charge, or you can book an Akashic session and we can explore some of these issues together. So for now, again, stay safe, stay in peace, live in your soul power, and it was wonderful to be here.
Thank you for joining the Angelscapes podcast. We hope you've gained new insights and inspiration for your journey to uncover and access your soul's power. For more information and a deeper dive into finding clarity in your life, go to angelscapes.com. Remember to subscribe so you can be part of the discussion. It may just change your life. See you next time.